Ivanka Trump just tweeted about today's synagogue massacre and was immediately called out. This morning, the second major right-wing terror attack in just a week occurred in the United States. 46-year-old white supremacist Robert Bowers opened fire at a Pittsburgh synagogue while screaming "All Jews must die," killing 11 and injuring several others as a family held a naming ceremony for their newborn child. The attack was an absolutely horrifying act of violence that was clearly motivated by anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. The killer's final message on Gab, Twitter for Nazis, referenced the Hebrew immigrant hate society and called the refugees they resettle in the America as invaders who were here to slaughter his people, rhetoric that the president and his backers have used in more publicly palatable language over and over again for the past few years. First daughter and White House advisor Ivanka Trump took to Twitter this afternoon to share a message of condolence and unity following the horrifying massacre, but refused to acknowledge the role that her own family played in encouraging the deed. Ivanka Trump. At Ivanka Trump, America is stronger than the acts of a depraved bigot and anti-Semite. All good Americans stand with the Jewish people to oppose acts of terror and share the horror, disgust and outrage over the massacre in Pittsburgh. We must unite against hatred and evil. God bless those affected. From the outset, it was clear that the Trump administration was not going to be a friend of American Jews as the new president filled his team with open white supremacists and Nazi-adjacent ideologues like Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Sebastian Gorka, and Ian Smith. Immediately following the election, which saw Trump first begin to use coded anti-Semitic language like globalists, sharing anti-Semitic memes, and begin propagating anti-Semitic conspiracies about billionaire George Soros, swastikas were spray-painted around the country and hate crimes immediately spiked. Then came the slew of bomb threats to Jewish community centers around the country, causing evacuations and terrorizing the kids and their families. President Trump at first refused to condemn the attacks, then claimed that sometimes it's the reverse, shouted down a Jewish reporter from Israel who tried to press him to condemn the attacks, and then sent out his press secretary Sean Spicer to admonish the Anne Frank Center for Mutual Respect for not praising Trump's leadership. When neo-Nazis and white supremacists marched on Charlottesville yelling "Jews will not replace us" and then murdered activist Heather Heyer, Trump refused to condemn them and said that there were good people on both sides. Just yesterday, President Trump was joking about locking up George Soros and blowing anti-Semitic globalist dog whistles that neo-Nazis around the country are clearly listening to and responding to. When faced with the consequences of 2 years of wink-nudge winking to the far right, all President Trump could do was victim-shame the synagogue for failing to have armed guards and then complain how he, the most powerful man in the free world, somehow couldn't do anything about it. Justin Fenton. At Justin_Fenton, President Trump, asked about gun laws, says the Pittsburgh synagogue should have had armed security at the bris and the gunman wouldn't be able to do what he did. So if Ivanka really wanted to do anything substantial to help stop this violence against her community, she can start right at home by calling out her Nazi-courting father, a course of action which the users of Twitter were quick to point out to her. Kara Swisher replying to Ivanka Trump tweet. At Kara Swisher, all good Americans don't incite people to such violence. You might want to bring it up at Thanksgiving dinner. Sarah Gelser replying to Ivanka Trump tweet. As Sen Sarah Gelser, America is led by a man who calls neo-Nazis very fine people, rips brown children away from their parents, and continues a relationship with the Saudis despite the suffering of Yemeni children. Today's tragedy is consistent with the world your dad is fighting to create.